Stop what you're doing right now and look at your screen, because the gatekeepers of Hollywood just lost the keys to the kingdom. We've all heard the whispers, we've all seen the blurred-out flight logs, but the silence has finally been shattered by the one man the elites couldn't buy and couldn't bury, Jim Caviezel. Are you ready? Because the queen of media herself, Oprah Winfrey, just had her great wall of PR knocked down by a bombshell revelation that connects her directly to the darkest corners of the Epstein files. We aren't just talking about a casual brunch or a polite photo op anymore. We are talking about receipts, files, and a divine reckoning that Caviezel says is going to wash away the glitter and reveal the rot underneath. Why has Oprah been so quiet? Why did she scrub her social media faster than a crime scene when the name started leaking? And what did Jim Caviezel see during the filming of Sound of Freedom that made him realize Oprah isn't just a talk show host, she's a tactical enabler? Buckle up, because we're diving into the rabbit hole that the mother of the world desperately tried to fill with concrete. The storm isn't just coming, friends, the storm is here. The conversation has officially moved from the shadowy corners of the internet directly onto the main stage, and the person holding the spotlight is none other than Jim Caviezel. For years, we have seen this man sidelined, mocked, and treated like a pariah by the very industry that once hailed him as a prodigy. But why? Was it really just because of his faith, or was it because he saw something during the production of Sound of Freedom that made him a permanent threat to the status quo? Caviezel isn't just talking about a movie anymore, he's talking about a war. A war for the souls of children and the survival of our republic. And at the center of this storm, standing like a silent, powerful monolith, is Oprah Winfrey. Think about the timing of all this. We are living in a moment where the veil is being pulled back so fast it's giving the public whiplash. The release of the full Epstein files wasn't just a news cycle. It was a seismic event that sent shockwaves through Montecito and beyond. But the media, they stayed quiet. They focused on anything else, the weather, celebrity breakups, political distractions, anything to keep you from looking at the 5 specific instances where Oprah's name is allegedly woven into the fabric of those files. Caviezel, however, isn't bound by a network contract. He isn't worried about his next movie deal because he knows the stakes are far higher than a box office weekend. He is calling out the gatekeepers, and he has identified Oprah as the ultimate guardian of the Hollywood fortress. To understand the weight of these accusations, you have to understand the history. Oprah has spent decades positioning herself as the moral compass of the world. She is the woman who tells you what to read, how to feel, and who to trust. But look at the people she has stood next to. Look at the people she has validated with her multi-billion-dollar platform. Harvey Weinstein wasn't just a business associate. He was a friend she swung off the arm of at elite parties, giving every young actress in the room the signal that this man was safe. When you are the most powerful woman in media, your presence is a shield. If Oprah is there, the monster must be a gentleman, right? That is the power of the gatekeeper. They sanitize the predators until it's too late. Jim Caviezel has been vocal about the resistance he faced while trying to bring the truth of child trafficking to the screen. He has mentioned the 8-armed octopus, a metaphor for a massive, interconnected network of grooming, procurement, and power that spans the globe. He says that if you take out one arm, another grows back. You have to take the head. And when you look at the influence Oprah wields, you start to wonder if the head of that octopus is wearing a designer suit and hosting a book club. The sheer level of coordination required to bury a film like Sound of Freedom for 5 years suggests a level of power that goes beyond mere studio politics. It suggests a directive from the top. And then there is the South African Academy. This was supposed to be Oprah's crowning achievement, her legacy of light. But the stories that emerged from those walls were anything but light. Allegations of abuse, matrons arrested for horrific acts against girls, and a subsequent legal battle that ended in a quiet, out-of-court settlement. In the world of the elite, silence is the most expensive commodity you can buy. When you have billions, you don't win arguments, you make them disappear. You settle the lawsuits, you sign the non-disclosure agreements, and you wait for the news cycle to move on. But Jim Caviezel is saying the time for moving on is over. He is saying that the blood of the innocent is crying out, and no amount of philanthropy can drown out that sound. The controversy surrounding the Epstein documents is the final piece of the puzzle. People are digging through travel logs and flight manifests, looking for connections that the mainstream media refuses to investigate. Why did Oprah's name surface in the same context as a convicted monster? Why has she not addressed the public with the transparency she demands from everyone else? Instead, we see a strategic retreat. We see a move to Maui, a distancing from the public eye, and a frantic attempt to rebrand. But the public isn't as easily fooled as they were in the 90s. We have seen the patterns. We saw it with John of God, the Brazilian healer who turned out to be a serial predator. Oprah didn't just interview him. She gave him the keys to the kingdom. She told her millions of viewers that this man was a miracle worker. When the truth came out, she issued a cold, sterile statement. The pattern is always the same: validate, elevate, and then evacuate when the fire starts. Caviezel's latest revelations suggest that the gatekeepers are panicking because the event he has been predicting is finally unfolding. He talks about a storm of all storms, a moment of mass awakening where the truth becomes so undeniable that the media empire crumbles. And if Oprah is the foundation of that empire, her fall would mean the end of the entire system of celebrity protection. This isn't just about one woman. It's about a culture that has allowed monsters to hide in plain sight because they had the right friends in high places. As we look at the fallout, the sarcasm in the air is palpable. The mother of the world is suddenly very quiet when it's her own children, the ones she claimed to protect, who are the ones being discussed in the context of these files. The irony of her career being built on confession culture while she remains the most secretive figure in Hollywood is not lost on the audience. Jim Caviezel is playing a dangerous game, but he is doing it with the confidence of a man who has seen the evidence. He is pointing at the screen and telling us that the person we've been taught to admire is the very person holding the door shut for the elite. The tension is building to a breaking point. Every day, more whistleblowers are stepping forward, inspired by the courage of people like Caviezel who refuse to be silenced. The media can only hold the line for so long before the dam breaks. When you have 85,000 children missing at the border and a government that seems more interested in protecting the reputations of the rich than finding the lost, the people start to ask why. And when those questions lead back to the same circles, the same parties, and the same media moguls, the truth becomes an unstoppable force. We are watching the deconstruction of a legend in real time. The carefully crafted image of Oprah Winfrey, the self-made billionaire of empathy, is being stripped away to reveal a cold, calculating architect of influence. Whether she knew the full extent of the crimes of her associates or simply provided the social cover they needed, the result is the same. The gate was kept, the predators were protected, and the children were forgotten. But the silence is ending. Jim Caviezel has sounded the alarm, and the echoes are reaching every corner of the globe. The question is no longer if the truth will come out, but how many people will be left standing when the dust finally settles on Epstein's legacy and the empires it supported. The investigation takes a turn into the truly bizarre as we move from the boardrooms of Hollywood to the flight logs that the elite thought were buried forever. If you thought the connection to Harvey Weinstein was bad, you haven't seen anything yet. Jim Caviezel has hinted that the paper trail doesn't just stop at social associations. It leads directly to the tarmac. We are talking about the infamous Lolita Express, the private jet that served as a shuttle for the world's most powerful people to visit an island where laws didn't exist. For years, the mainstream media has tried to debunk the idea that Oprah Winfrey was ever on that plane, but the public isn't buying the corporate spin anymore. Caviezel suggests that the documents being whispered about in the deepest recesses of the intelligence community paint a much more frequent travel schedule than anyone dared to imagine. Why is it that every time a massive predator is exposed, Oprah is somewhere in the background with a microphone and a smile? It's almost impressive if it wasn't so terrifying. Take the case of John of God, the man Oprah branded as a spiritual miracle worker. She flew all the way to Brazil to give this man her blessing, broadcasting his powers to millions of desperate, trusting people. When he was later exposed as a monster who ran what can only be described as a human farming operation, Oprah's team did what they do best: they hit the delete button. They tried to scrub the interviews, they issued a half-hearted statement of sadness, and then they pivoted. But Caviezel is pointing out the obvious. How does a woman with the greatest research team in the history of television accidentally promote a serial abuser for years? At what point does "oops, I didn't know" become a statistical impossibility? The narrative is shifting because the audience is finally seeing the mechanics of the eight-armed octopus. Caviezel describes this network as a self-sustaining cycle of procurement and protection. The celebrities provide the glamour and the trust, while the darker elements of the network handle the logistics. And Oprah, as the ultimate arbiter of who is good and who is inspiring, is the most valuable asset this network ever had. She wasn't just a guest at the parties. She was the social currency that made the parties acceptable. If you're a young actor or a politician and you see Oprah Winfrey laughing with Harvey Weinstein or Sean Diddy Combs, your internal alarm system shuts off. You think, if the most influential woman in America trusts these men, they must be part of the good guys. This is how the grooming of an entire culture happens. It's not done in dark alleys. It's done on red carpets and during life class episodes. But the real bombshell that Caviezel is dropping involves the missing 85,000 children. This isn't just a conspiracy theory. It's a terrifying statistic from the border that the government has failed to explain. Caviezel is linking the silence of media moguls like Oprah to the systemic failure to protect these children. He's asking the question that no one in Washington wants to answer. Where did they go? And more importantly, who benefited from their disappearance? When you have a machine that requires a constant influx of the most vulnerable, and you have a media empire that refuses to report on the mechanics of that machine, you have a recipe for a republic's collapse. Caviezel isn't just acting out a script. He is acting as a whistleblower for a reality that is far more scripted than any movie. The level of corruption we are discussing here involves a level of wealth that makes regular people's heads spin. We're talking about offshore accounts, private islands, and the kind of philanthropy that serves as a tax-exempt cover for moving people and resources across borders. The Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy in South Africa is once again under the microscope, but this time through the lens of the Epstein files. Why were there rumors of mass graves? Why did the lawsuits involve such heavy-handed intimidation of the victims? The elite don't just use money to buy things. They use it to buy silence and to rewrite history in real time. But as Caviezel says, the devil owns the fence, and the fence is currently being torn down by the weight of the truth. And let's talk about the sarcasm of the Me Too movement. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Oprah stood on that stage at the Golden Globes and gave a speech that brought the room to ears, talking about a new day on the horizon where no one would have to say Me Too again. And yet, she was the very person who helped sustain the career of the man the movement was started to take down. It's a masterclass in reputation laundering. You don't just hide the scandal. You become the face of the cure. You don't just associate with the monster. You lead the march against him once he's no longer useful. Caviezel is calling out this performative morality for exactly what it is. A smokescreen designed to keep the public from looking at the gatekeeper's own closet. The storm of all storms that Caviezel predicts isn't just about arrests. It's about the total collapse of the celebrity cult. For decades, we have been conditioned to look at these people as our betters, as the ones who have the answers to how we should live. But the Epstein files have proven that behind the designer clothes and the humanitarian awards lies a level of depravity that the average person can't even comprehend. The panic in Hollywood is palpable. You can see it in the way they are suddenly frantic about misinformation and the way they are trying to censor anyone who mentions the flight logs. They aren't afraid of lies. They are terrified of the truth being organized into a coherent narrative. Caviezel's insider knowledge apparently comes from a mix of intelligence sources and the harrowing research he did for his role as Tim Ballard. He claims he saw things in Colombia, men offering children for sale as if they were pieces of fruit, and he realized that this isn't a over there problem. It's a right here problem. And it's a problem that is fueled by the demand of the very people Oprah has spent her life entertaining. The connection between the high-end trafficking of the Epstein world and the street-level horror of the border is the same network. It's the same octopus. One arm handles the procurement, another handles the transport, and the biggest, most beautiful arm, the media, handles the distraction. The fallout from these revelations is already beginning to manifest in weird ways. Have you noticed how many celebrities are suddenly selling their estates? How many are moving to countries without extradition treaties? The mass arrests Caviezel talks about might not be happening in the way we expect, but the social arrest of these figures is already underway. The public trust is gone. You can't go back to believing the Queen of Talk when you've seen the shadows behind the throne. The sarcasm that once filled the comment sections has turned into a cold, hard demand for justice. People are tired of the "I'm saddened by this news" statements. They want to know why the news existed in the first place and why the gatekeeper didn't say a word until she was forced to. As the documents continue to leak and the whistleblowers gain more courage, the circle is closing in on Montecito. The rumors of Oprah's involvement in cooking and her deep ties to the political elite who frequented Epstein's residences are becoming too loud to ignore. Jim Caviezel is standing there, pointing his finger at the screen, telling us that the final act is about to begin. The event is coming, and it's going to be televised, but not on the networks Oprah owns. It's going to be told by the people, for the people, and the gatekeepers are going to find out that when the fence falls, there's nowhere left to hide. The narrative is no longer in their control, and the transition from the second act of this drama to the final, crushing conclusion is about to be the most watched event in human history. The transition from the second act of this drama to the final, crushing conclusion is about to be the most watched event in human history, and Jim Caviezel is essentially the lead investigator in this digital tribunal. We are now entering the phase of the narrative that the elites call the unthinkable, but for the rest of us, it's simply called the unavoidable. The momentum has shifted from whispers to a roar, and the legal walls are beginning to close in on the high-end estates of Montecito and the penthouses of Manhattan. This isn't just about the court of public opinion anymore. It's about the tangible, cold reality of forensic accounting and grand jury subpoenas that are allegedly flying out faster than the private jets can take off. Caviezel has hinted that the event isn't a single day, but a domino effect where the first domino was the release of the Epstein documents, and the final domino is the absolute dismantling of the media apparatus that Oprah Winfrey spent 40 years building. Think about the sheer audacity of the silence we are witnessing. In any other era, a billionaire media mogul being linked to 5 different sections of a high-profile trafficking file would be front-page news for a month. But today, the mainstream channels are acting like it's a glitch in the simulation. They want you to believe that the flight logs are a myth, that the testimonies are fabricated, and that Jim Caviezel has simply lost his mind. But if he's so crazy, why is the establishment so terrified of him? Why did the major studios try to bury a movie about saving children for half a decade? You don't fight that hard against a conspiracy theory unless that theory is actually a roadmap to your front door. The sarcasm of the elites has turned into a desperate, panicked shriek for censorship. But as the saying goes, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube once the public has seen the rot. The legal fallout we are anticipating involves a series of mass arrests that Caviezel claims will target the facilitators, the people who didn't necessarily commit the crimes themselves but provided the infrastructure, the funding, and the social cover. This is where the Oprah connection becomes a legal nightmare. If the investigations into the Epstein network transition into a RICO case, anyone who provided material support or used their platform to validate and protect the key players could find themselves in the crosshairs. We are talking about potential government probes into the financial trails of celebrity-led charities and the philanthropic foundations that act as the lubricant for the 8-armed octopus. The hypothetical resignations we're seeing aren't just for health reasons or spending more time with family. They are strategic retreats. They are the moves of people who know that the storm is about to make landfall. And what about the financial crisis brewing within the celebrity cult? The brands are toxic. The sponsorships are drying up. The elite can feel the ground shifting, and for the first time in history, their money can't buy them an exit strategy. Jim Caviezel has positioned the Epstein files as the final step, the moment where the mother of the world is forced to explain why her name is on the same pages as a convicted monster. The public backlash isn't just a few mean tweets, it's a global awakening. People are looking at their televisions and realizing that they've been groomed for decades to trust the very people who are selling them out. The tension is so high that you could almost hear a pin drop in the corridors of power, right before the sound of the handcuffs clicking. The sarcasm is reaching peak levels when you consider the divine reckoning that Caviezel talks about. He's not just talking as an actor, he's talking as someone who believes he is on a mission from God. And that is the one thing the secular elites don't know how to fight. You can cancel an actor, but you can't cancel a martyr. You can deplatform a celebrity, but you can't stop a man who thinks he's fighting for the souls of 85,000 missing children. The irony is that Oprah's own spirituality brand was always about light and love, but when faced with the absolute darkness of the Epstein reality, her light has gone out. She has nothing to say. No book club pick can fix this. No Super Soul Sunday can explain away the flight manifests. As the government investigations allegedly move into the deeper recesses of Hollywood, we are hearing reports of anonymous whistleblowers from within Oprah's own production empire starting to talk. They are talking about the vetting process that wasn't actually a vetting process at all. They are talking about how certain names were protected and how certain stories were buried. The corruption isn't just at the top, it's in the very foundation of the media machine. The public is demanding to know, if Oprah was the gatekeeper of what we were allowed to see, what else was she hiding behind that gate? The rumors of mass graves and human farming might sound like a horror movie, but in a world where Jeffrey Epstein was a real person, the line between fiction and reality has been permanently erased. The consequences for Hollywood are going to be total. We are looking at a future where the current studio system is replaced by something entirely different, a system that doesn't answer to the gatekeepers. Jim Caviezel is already the face of this new direction. The success of Sound of Freedom proved that the public doesn't need the permission of the elites to watch the truth. The financial crisis hitting the major networks is a direct result of this shift in trust. Why would you watch a network that lies to you when you can find the truth from the people the network tried to silence? The resignation of the old guard is inevitable, and Oprah Winfrey's silence is the most loud and clear signal that the era of the celebrity untouchable is over. The event is unfolding in real time. It's a culture that is being reawakened, as Caviezel says, and once you are awake, you can't go back to sleep. You can't see the photos of Oprah with Weinstein. You can't read the names in the Epstein logs. You can't ignore the fact that thousands of children are vanishing while the rich and famous throw parties on private islands. The sarcasm that defined the celebrity era, the "we're better than you" attitude, is being met with a cold, hard demand for justice. The gatekeeper has lost her keys, and the people are finally walking through the gate to see what's been hidden in the shadows for all these years. We are watching the end of an empire. It's a slow-motion crash, and the queen of media is at the steering wheel, unable to brake. Whether it's a divine reckoning or just the natural consequence of decades of enabling evil, the result is the same. The reckoning is here, the storm has arrived, and the people are no longer afraid of the gatekeepers. Jim Caviezel has sounded the trumpet, and the walls of Jericho, or in this case, the walls of Montecito, are starting to tumble. This is the final act, the moment of truth, and the world is finally ready to hear the sound of freedom. The question that remains for all of us is simple. Where were you when the truth finally broke the machine? Were you on the side of the gatekeepers, or were you on the side of the children? Because according to Caviezel, that's the only question that's going to matter when you have to meet your maker. The sarcasm of the elite won't save them then, and Oprah's billions won't buy her a seat at that table. The truth is the only currency that still has value, and the truth is saying that the era of the monster is coming to a very, very public end. The evidence is in the files, the names are in the logs, and the spirit of the people has been ignited. There is no going back. The investigation is moving into its final, most explosive phase, and the names that are about to be revealed will make everything we've talked about so far look like a dress rehearsal. The curtain is coming down, the lights are staying on, and for the first time in history, the audience is the one in charge. Welcome to the reckoning. Welcome to the end of the gatekeepers. Welcome to the truth that Hollywood tried to kill, but only succeeded in making immortal. This is the moment of truth, the crossroads where we decide if we are going to keep our eyes closed or stand with the brave souls who are risking everything to expose the rot. Jim Caviezel has laid it all on the line, his career, his reputation, and his safety, to make sure the names in those files don't stay hidden in some offshore vault. But he can't do it alone. The gatekeepers like Oprah Winfrey only have power because we give it to them with our attention and our silence. Are you going to let the queen of media decide what's true? Or are you going to demand the justice those 85,000 missing children deserve? The storm is here, and the reckoning is non-negotiable. If you believe that no one, no matter how many billions they have, is above the law, then you need to make your voice heard right now. What do you think is hidden in the final pages of those Epstein files? Is Oprah just a victim of bad associations? Or is she the ultimate architect of the silence?